to the Cooler Women's Wellness Tribe, the podcast. Get comfortable, get your walking shoes on, and let's get going. Hello, podcast tribe. How are we all today? Are you feeling that spring in your step? So it's finally March. I can't believe it's March. This year is already going so quick. I know everyone always says that, but I feel like January and February has flown by. So today's podcast is inspired by a few things, a few events, and mainly me wanting to, I guess, inspire you. So using the word inspire a lot there. But I want to inspire you guys to make changes or to look at other people in a certain way and take advice and not worry that you're the only person going through whatever it is that you're going through. And now I feel that with the rise of social media, there's a lot of times that we can be scrolling and we see people on there and we really want to relate to them, but we can't. We really want to look at some people and think, oh my God, she knows, but some of their posts just don't show or tell their truth. Now, when I came into the wellness industry, one of my intentions was to be a coach that people can look at, women can look at and see that she knows, she's been there. And on reflection of some of my Instagram posts, I know that I have maybe shied away recently from telling my story, and I share a lot of information. So try this, do this, take this out, and it's all relevant, it's all good information, but without the backstory, without the information there to allow you to see how you can relate, I think I've sort of lost my way a bit there. So I guess this podcast is me with a bit of a promise as well of I'm going to tell my story, I'm going to help you to relate, and I can help you through whatever it is that you're feeling just by sharing my truth, just by sharing what I've been through, because I guarantee the way that you feel or the things that are happening to you, if it's emotional, physical or mental, then there's somebody else out there who feels the same way. What we don't do is share this enough. We live in a world where everyone feels like they need to look and sound perfect, but they're not. We all live imperfectly perfect lives, and it's perfect for you, and what you can do is perfect for you. It's not the same for somebody else. And that's what I want to share today. I'm going to tell you a bit about my own struggles, and hopefully you can relate, but then also show you how I've come out the other side and things that I do today that I can pass on to you. So I'm just going to go back about 10 years. So I know I spoke about my story in my last podcast. I'm going to talk about my anxiety story today. And I would say 10 years ago, anxiety was probably my normal state. So I was anxious every day. And it got to a point where, so I can tell these stories now and laugh, but at the time, I was having panic attacks. There was one time that I had such a bad panic attack that I got in my car, I drove to my mum's, and I made her take me to the hospital because I convinced myself I felt like I was having a heart attack. So I sat in the hospital, I had all the tests. Because they took a blood test, I convinced myself that I was having a heart attack, and that's why they had to take the blood tests. Obviously, they told me after that it was anxiety, but then they sort of just sent me on my way. They didn't help. They didn't tell me what I needed to do or why I was feeling that way. So off I carried on with my work. At the time, I was actually a care worker. And now, looking back, I know the trigger there. So I started working care, and I'd never been faced with death. And I'd never been faced with aging or people aging and people dying. And I was already very anxious. I already worried a lot about things that I didn't need to worry about. And just stepping into this world of older people with cancer, people with MS, people in the 80s, and seeing an 80-year-old person with one boob, and it really just threw me. And then my intrusive thoughts would take over. Oh my God, you're going to die. You're going to get this, you're going to get that. Your mum's going to die, your dad's going to die, everyone's going to die. And I would be looking at people and literally thinking, oh my God, you're going to die. And it spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. And because I was already anxious, because I was already an overthinker, it turned into panic attacks, it turned into heart attacks, and it turned into me having every single diagnosis, self-diagnosis, under the sun. And this sort of was my life up until 3 years ago. So anxious most of the time, very much a people pleaser, because I was too anxious not to say no when I didn't want to do something. I had health anxiety to the point where a few years ago I got a therapist because, again, every single little pain that I had in my body, a headache was a brain tumour, random nerve pains was MS, and it all linked back to everything that I saw when I was working in care, and it was consuming my life. And because I was living in this state of anxiety, I was then having a bad relationship in other areas. So with friends, I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. I was completely staying away from all of that, but obviously that is a negative. So I wasn't allowing love into my life. I wasn't eating correctly. So I didn't really have an appetite because I was anxious. So it wasn't that I was on any diet or any eating disorder. I wanted to eat. I didn't have any disorder with eating, but my anxiety meant that when I did eat, I felt very sick and I just wasn't hungry. So I was eating, I didn't enjoy food. So then I was eating a lot of takeaways because if I cooked, I didn't enjoy it, made me feel sick. So I wasn't eating food that was good for me, which then in turn, the vicious circle continues, knocked my hormones out of balance. So then I was suffering with my cycles, so mood swings, acne, hairy periods, really bad period cramps. I'd have insomnia, but then I'd be extremely tired. I know I've mentioned mood swings, but I had the rage. I was angry, like so angry. When I look back now, I was just an angry girl. I can't explain it any other way. But at the time, I didn't know what to do. And I think as women, as females, we're kind of just told we're being hormonal. And a lot of these things we don't talk about because we are told it's normal. We're told that, I don't know, people use it, like, oh, are you on your period? You're feeling hormonal. As if it's like, oh, it's okay that you're feeling really bad, you've got really bad anxiety, but it's okay, it's just your hormones, you need to just get over it. No one talks about the way that actually you shouldn't be feeling that bad. You shouldn't be feeling like you want to crash your car. And that's a true story. I've had in my mind these intrusive thoughts I used to suffer with. What would happen if I just crashed my car? Would people be upset? If I died? Like, not suicidal, I'm not saying that, but just these random intrusive thoughts that I'm like, oh, it's just my hormones because it's only at this time of the month when I think it. And again, no one talks about intrusive thoughts either. Like, everybody gets them. My main one is when I hold a baby. Like, how many of you have held a baby and the intrusive thought is, oh my God, I'm going to drop the baby. And you kind of sort of imagine yourself dropping the baby. Obviously, I'm not going to drop the baby. None of us want to drop the baby. And it's just, I just don't want to talk about it. Like, oh my God, why does this thought pop into your head? And intrusive thoughts are normal, but no one wants to talk about it because it makes you sound weird. You don't want to be weird. You don't want to have these weird thoughts. So no one admits it, even though everybody has them. I'd love to meet somebody that doesn't, because what are they doing? So this brings me back to the point of my podcast today is we don't talk about these things. We don't say when something feels off, because we don't want to look like the one that's different. We want to look the same. We don't want to come across as angry or sad or a hormonal woman or a weak woman, because the answer to a lot of our problems is, oh, hormones, are you due on your period? And I know there's a lot of jokes around that, which again is kind of normalized. So one other events that inspired me talking about all of this today was I'm sure you all saw in the news, the missing lady, Nicola Bulley, and then they found her body. But it was just before they found her body that they released the news story that she was suffering with perimenopause, and she was struggling with that, and she turned to alcohol. And as I was watching the news, which I don't normally do, so this is probably why it triggered me a little bit, I just thought, they may as well have been saying she's actually an alien and she's got 4 heads and she's blue, she can fly, because it was as if it was sort of a really unknown concept that this 45-year-old woman might be going through perimenopause and might be struggling with it. It's not something that you need to announce to everybody. And what it made me think of was sort of, well, where do women go? And I don't think many people talk about this either, especially for women 35 plus, that, it's kind of this thing that no one wants to admit, and it's something that you dread. Now, to be honest, because of the work that I've done, and I understand, it's whenever my time comes for menopause, perimenopause, I feel like I'm ready. But again, this is another area that I know a lot of women aren't, and rest in peace, Nicola, if it was something to do with her perimenopause, what a shame that she felt like she didn't have anyone to talk to. So again, this also inspired me to think about sharing my truth a little bit more, and even if it's just me sharing about my crappy day and one other person's like, oh my God, it's okay, she feels that way too, then my job here is done. So last week when I was having my crappy day, I'm just going to go through it because I know a lot of you will be able to resonate. So it's from the moment you wake up. Now, as a health coach, I do all the things. So I cut out caffeine before my period so that I can keep my hormones balanced. I've cut out chemicals that I know keep my hormones off balance. I eat my fruit, I eat my vegetables, the seeds, the nuts. I don't drink alcohol. I do yoga, I meditate. I do everything that I would prescribe to others. But I'm still a human, and I still have these days where I wake up and I just feel crap. So last week I had one of those days, and you'll know this day because you do your hair, you hate your hair, you hate the style, you hate the colour. You do your face, you put your cream on, you hate your eyes, you hate your nose, you hate your cheeks, you hate your eye bags, you hate your skin, spots, and it goes down through your body. You hate your clothes. I hated my clothes so much that day. I went to my boyfriend's wardrobe and got one of his t-shirts because I just felt gross. I hated everything in my wardrobe. I'd already gone through it and thought, that's going. Mentally made a charity bag because I hate everything in there. Then when you're walking around, so that's just getting up. Then something happens, like your dressing gown gets caught on the door handle. So you're ready to rip the door off the hinges and throw it down the stairs. Then you spill the milk on the side. Then your coffee overflows and everything just escalates from there. Some light came on my car. No one else can drive on the roads. Then the overthinking starts, and the worry and all the things that I used to feel before I had all the tools start to creep back in. So then I worry like, oh my God, have I pissed that person off? Oh my God, they haven't texted me back, etc, etc, etc. So these are all things that I still feel. The difference is now that I put on a little bit of meditation music in my car, and when I'm in traffic, I sit, obviously I don't close my eyes, but I use my breathing techniques. I make sure that day I eat certain foods to help me, so foods that are full of iron and foods that can help balance, so your leafy greens, and I do a relaxing yoga session. And I know that I have the tools now to help me to overcome these things, but they do still happen. And when I put my post on last week about this and I got such good response, that got me thinking like, yeah, we don't talk about this. No one posts on Instagram that, oh, I'm in day 22 of my cycle. I've got such greasy hair. Here's my hair. Here's me with no makeup on. I've got this huge spot on my chin. I'm tired. I don't want to talk to anyone. I actually want everyone to leave me alone. What we do see is the same girl, maybe heavily filtered, makeup on, and she's happy, and we then see that on our day 22 and think, oh my God, like, look at her. She doesn't get spots. She doesn't get angry. She doesn't get bloated. She doesn't hate everyone that lives in her house. Like, these are the things, and I know it sounds dramatic, but we do. So we look at these other people and it's not as if they're not human to us, but we have them on a pedestal who, no matter who it is, it could be the woman down the road that, she isn't an influencer or famous, but her pictures, she's always so pristine and she looks so happy and she's eating her vegetables and her shakes. She's working out. She couldn't possibly hate everyone. She couldn't possibly get spots. She doesn't possibly get greasy hair. So it's just really having this relatable relationship with people that we see online. And this is what I want to be for other women. So I've had anxiety. I still get anxiety. I wouldn't say that I'm still a very anxious person, but when something happens, I do still have a little bit of a freak out and I do still worry, and I have to go through my toolbox and think, right, how can I sort these thoughts out? So now I know that when I'm anxious, what I'm actually doing is holding on to a past memory, and I have to remind myself, okay, this is not the same situation. This is not the same time frame. This is not the same thing. You are not the same person. And I'm able to get myself through it and out the other side. So instead of my anxiety over a situation lasting days and days and days, now it might be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So I have to mentally get myself through that, but it does still happen. The other day, it was a good couple of hours in the morning and I really just couldn't be bothered with anything. I just couldn't settle into the day. I'd already sort of decided to cut all my hair off. Like I said, already bagged up clothes to give away because I just hated them. I hated everything that they represented. They weren't me. They weren't me on that day. So what I did on that day is obviously I shared that little post, and then thank you to everyone who did message me because that instantly lifted my mood as well. But I took myself for a milkshake. I took my journal and my laptop and I sat and I watched things that I know that would lift me up, that lift me out of that mood, the things that light me up. So this is what I tell my clients to do too. So if they come to me, and I have lots of people and lots of women who also feel like they're trapped and they can't just have 5 minutes, but you can. And if you have a partner, if you have somebody that you can call to say, I need 5 minutes, can you come and watch the kids? Then do it. This is another thing that we don't do, is ask for help. And I'm very guilty of that as well. I won't ask. So if I need, for example, if I need to get somewhere and I haven't got a car, I'll check taxi prices, scooter prices, how long it takes to walk, train, fly, whatever, until I ask someone for a lift. because I don't want to put anyone out. And again, this is something that I'm still working on this. What this actually comes down to is me not being able to receive and me not feeling good enough to have help off people. So it's not just about not wanting to put people out, it's about my own self-love, because I don't feel worthy of that. And I'm still working on that. So when you see me post about these things on Instagram, I'm living that. I'm actually getting through that now. I'm learning to accept and to receive. Even down to the point when someone gives me a compliment, I'm still telling myself, just write thank you, put a love heart. I don't always need to give a compliment back, because that's another thing that I do. So instead of accepting the compliment, I'll say thank you, it's only, or it's just, or I think you do this, and try and reflect it off me. So that's one thing that I am working on at the moment. And another thing that I want you to know as well is it is very hard not to compare to other people. So if you're listening to this podcast today and you've ever compared yourself, if you follow me on Instagram, compared yourself to me, or you compare yourself to others, I want you to start just thinking about how they do feel what you feel. So instead of looking at them and putting them on this pedestal, and this is something again that I've started to do, so I've started to imagine them in a grumpy mood and looking their worst and giving them more of a human face, because at the end of the day we are all in this together. We're all in the human race together, and I know that sounds a bit woo-woo, but we are all in it together, and we do forget that. And as women, we should be supporting each other, and I'm a big advocate for us sharing. And I know some people don't like to share. I have friends who don't like talking about their periods, who won't talk about going to the toilet. You know, these are things that we all do, and I think it should be normalised to talk about everyday bodily functions, because these are the things that we do need to hear. We need to hear that period poos. Did anyone tell you that you would get period poos? Serious question. Because for years and years and years that I sort of knew, like, oh, this happens to me. I didn't know that it happened to nearly every woman, until I actually did my wellness course, and it's actually a hormone. So there's a hormone that is released, again, all links to hormones. There's a hormone that's released when you're coming on your period that's very similar to how your body moves, or the hormones when you're going to the toilet. So that is why, because your body doesn't distinguish between the two. And that's why you go to the toilet. No one ever tells you that it's okay not to feel okay some days. So when you start tracking your cycle, and if you worked with me, we would track, and once you know where you are in your cycle, you can sort of prepare and think, right, I might be a little bit off tomorrow, and you can make sure you've got things in your diary that help you with that. And if you don't, then amazing. If you manage to overcome that, then even better. But just having that understanding that these things happen, and no matter how perfect your diet and exercise and your whole routine is, at the end of the day, we still have these hormones running throughout our body, and they are the ones that are in control. We need to work with them rather than working against them. And just to end, what I want to leave you with is just some of the things that I do now. I know I've mentioned a few as I've been going on, but for example, even when I was on the flight back from Bali last week, I had, I think, 5 days until my bleed. And on the plane, oh my gosh, I watched season 6 of Sex and the City, which I've watched 1,000,000 times. And yeah, I just wanted to cry. Every time something happened, happy or sad, I wanted to cry. So what I did was paused it, closed my eyes, and just allowed myself a little bit of a mini meditation while I was on the plane. No one needed to see, I didn't need to tell anybody this. I just did it to help to calm my nervous system, because there was obviously something going on there with my hormones, because my body was getting ready to bleed. My hormone levels would have dropped. My estrogen was very low. So I needed to let something go. So I just closed down my eyes and just gave myself a few minutes to see what these emotions were all about. And just taking that time helped me to just pull myself back up. And I think it was a mixture of my low hormones. Leaving Bali, I had such a lovely holiday with my dad, and I always get a little bit emotional when I leave places. It's just, it's just the way that I am. My dad actually told me that when I was a kid and we'd leave holidays, I would cry. So it's obviously just, for me, leaving that happiness behind. But then now as an adult, I just bring myself back and I practiced gratitude while I was there on the plane for everything that I was grateful for that I'd experienced in Bali. So these are some of the things that you can do when you feel like you're about to pop. So it might be that if one more person talks to you in the house, leaves their dirty washing lying around, dishes in the sink, and if you're having one of those days, if it's your day where you just hate everything and everyone, allow yourself to just feel, and then just sit down and then just close your eyes and think about, right, where is this coming from? Do you know where you are in your cycle? So that would be one tick straight away. So if you know your period is a few days, right, okay, so my hormone levels are low here. What else is going on? And it might be that you need to just use your voice, ask for help. How much stress and tension will it take off you if you just say, can you please do this? I'm not feeling up to it, or I'm feeling tired. And we need to use our voice. We need to allow people to help us even when we're feeling vulnerable or angry. And if you don't already, talk to somebody. So if you haven't got that relationship with your friends, and I think most of us have a friend that talks about everything, go to that friend and just say, oh my God, I'm due on my cycle, I'm due on my bleed, sorry, not my cycle, I'm due on my bleed, I'm at this point in my cycle and I hate everything, I hate everyone. And she will tell you that, yes, I feel the same. And even just hearing somebody else tell you that it's okay to feel like that is what you need. And if you haven't got that person, then you can message me. Just ask me, start tracking your cycle and tell me, I'm on day 18 and I feel like this, and I can talk it through with you. And I guarantee that if you do start talking to other women, there will be someone else that says, me too, that's how I feel, I do that, I hate that, these things annoy me as well. And you'll realise that we are all in this together. It's a sisterhood, and we need to share it. We need to show our truth. Not everything is happy and shiny all of the time. Amazing that some people do that on their social media. I'm not knocking them at all, but how refreshing would it be if you just opened your social media and someone else was having a rage, 5 minutes rage, and you just go, yes, I get you. So I'm going to leave that there. Exciting. Next podcast, I'm going to have my first guest. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you very much for listening, taking half an hour out of your day to join me. And yeah, I do really mean it. So my promises to you are, I'm here if you have any questions. I'm here if you want to talk. And I'm here to show you that you're not alone. So if you don't already, give me a follow on Instagram, because I'm going to make an effort to post the things that you can relate to. My bad days, my good days, my in-between days. Yes, and I'm going to share it because I think it's really important, because I would hate other news stories popping up that sort of point to a woman not having anyone to talk to about something as a reason that, I don't know, I'm not going to go into that. That's somebody else's crime podcast, but yeah, I think you know what I'm trying to say. So yes, see you all next time. Have a lovely day. And that's it today, everybody. I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll see you again next week. Don't forget, 5 stars, download, tell your friends. You're amazing.